All right, Bob. All right, Jeff. What are we doing here, Bob? Well, Jeff, Gareth doesn't like the screen blank when I'm narrating stuff, so he asked us to come and sit here, basically. Like Celsius did. All right, okay. Video starting shortly? Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, I've shown you this character before. This is the Playmates 1999 Klingon warrior with Bat'leth. And he's got very little articulation, but he's a good sort of 8.5 inches tall, and I blinking love him for some reason. I can't quite explain what it is about him, but it might just be the look on his face. It's just, there's just something. He's got that little bit of sort of sparkle going on for me, and never had packaging for him. I just got this one loose, and he's missing a finger. And an eye actually, but the eye's on purpose. The finger I think was not. So I'm just gonna call it a war wound. But anyway, I've had a look at him before, but they did release one other figure in this range, and I happened across it on eBay just recently, and I opened the package this morning because I got a day off. I thought I'm gonna film this one right here, right now, because it gave me exactly the same reaction that I got when I first looked at him, and this one's in a halfway decent box, so I can actually show you the box that they originally came in, and I think that it is a thing of beauty, and for me it's right up there with the sort of the 3 assimilation example figures that we got a little bit later from Art Asylum. And here it is. Now, this is a 9-inch figure in a 12-inch tall box. Basically, it's huge. The box itself is much bigger than I was expecting it to be. And it is not how I picture Playmates boxes. You know, this is a whole different thing. And this, I think, is symbolic of the fact that this was a Playmates sculpt, and I'm guessing as well, you know, an entire sort of Playmates box design, because it is superb. I mean, just look at this. I mean, this box is, it's really difficult to explain it because obviously you're looking at it on a screen, but it's a little bit battered. But it's got this great sort of see-through segments. You can see all of the toy through this box, which I think is a terrific presentation. There's a little asset assortment number and stock number down here, which is classic Playmates, but there's actually very little identifying this as a Playmate toy. And I think this is where it was just starting to morph over into Art Asylum's brief stint, and then into Diamond Select after that. So we're right on the cusp here. But you know, this artwork on the back here, the camera's quite a way back just to be able to fit it all in. It's crazy. But as you can see, that's a nice piece of artwork. Star Trek Alien Combat Series. So, and it's got a nice bit of exposition. You can see it's got this a sort of a simulation chamber. Well, not a simulation chamber. What do they call them? Regeneration alcoves. So it's got that sort of background to it to put him into context. And I'll just read through the sort of exposition text here for you. The Borg are one of the most destructive and malevolent aliens ever encountered by the Federation. How this culture evolved still remains a mystery, although it is now known that they originated in the Delta Quadrant. Living in a hive culture called the Collective, the Borg are comprised of multiple drones selflessly serving the collective mind. The Borg species perpetuates itself by mercilessly conquering and assimilating other cultures, absorbing each culture's sentient creatures and technology. A victim of assimilation is injected with nanoprobes that immediately begin altering the body into a cybernetic hybrid. In most cases, machine implants and specialized prosthetics are attached to the body after organic parts are removed. All traces of individuality are lost, as the newly assimilated Borg drone is linked into the collective mind to which directs all Borg activities. Resistance is futile, or so the Borg believe. Any race that does resist assimilation faces an extremely brutal, relentless and cold-blooded invasion. In 2 Borg assaults, Earth has suffered heavy casualties but survived thanks to human ingenuity. It may only be a matter of time before the Borg once again attempt to assimilate Sector 001 and the Federation. And then right at the bottom it says, boldly go where no one has gone before, collect all of Starfleet's formidable foes in the Alien Combat series, of which there are 2, Borg Drone and Klingon Warrior, both of which of course are appearing in this very video. But that's it. As far as I'm aware, that's as far as they got. Now I do think that the Assimilation series that came later is kind of a natural continuation of this, but it's not a Playmates release. That was an Art Asylum release. But you do see echoes of this sort of packaging in those other drones, but this is so much chunkier. You know, they clearly sort of said, let's just go for sort of out and out heftiness here. And the lack of articulation on these is kind of curious, because obviously a lot of the standard size Playmates figures are very good articulation wise. They are perfectly good standard sort of action figure size. You can do other things with them. These guys, you've got no chance. These are really display items, and deservedly so, because, you know, they are huge. And I am going to get him out because I want to have a proper look at him. And I'm quite sure he's probably been out before, given the state of this box. I mean, these are going for a sort of a reasonable amount on eBay, so I think that they are not massively easy to come by. But I just don't think that they deserve to be sort of kept in their boxes, because they're just too cool. I want to have a look at him. So let's get this out. And his box is already battered, so I'm not really that fussed about him coming out. But he is still taped. He is still taped, so I'm having to slice and dice here just to get into him. But that's okay. I just realised that my cutting implement there is probably now retro itself, as it's a Wilco product. So let's pop him out and have a look at what you could have bought all those years ago. I mean, it's still crazy to me that these are now sort of, you know, 26 years old, pushing on for 30, and you can still get them in their boxes. Okay, it's not the greatest box, but you know. Now then, why is this not wanting to come out, I wonder? I'll skip to the end. So here it is out of the box. That was quite a struggle, but there wasn't anything obviously keeping him in place, strangely. They've missed a trick here, I think, unfortunately, from a point of view of, you know, an older collector who might wish to display this as it is. And the trick they've missed is this area here and these areas here, because they are illustrated on the inside but not on the outside. So you could take him out of the surrounding box quite happily, but you end up with bare cardboard showing. I don't know, you could try and take these pieces off, but I think they are sort of integrated into the front there. I think you'll just end up with gaps here and here if you actually tried to sort of dismantle it any further than this. I mean, I'm sure you could do something with the bottom. If you were artistically inclined at all, you might be able to do something as a sort of buffer around it, or just kind of cut it down a bit, I suppose, to get rid of the bare cardboard. Just a bit of a shame, I just thought, because, you know, if they'd just extended that a little bit further, that would have been epic, because you would have got a built-in display base. And I also suspect that once you try and take him off his blister at the back here, because it is, I don't know actually, maybe not, because you can probably, I wonder if I can get him out without, got to be careful of all these tubes here as well. They're quite delicate, I think. But I'm just thinking that he's not encased in his sort of plastic clamshell, so I wonder if they were designed just to be held there, and you can actually just ease them out of here without having to remove the clamshell from the back. Now, what I might just do is do some close-ups as he is and then skip to the end again, because I think I'm going to have to unwire some things at the back before I try and fully extract him. But I do love the detail on this. I mean, literally, the second I got this out of the packaging, I just thought, yeah, that's just brilliant. I mean, just the sort of the head sculpt in and of itself, it's got this lovely sort of reflective eyepiece, as or sort of ocular implant, if you like, that the Borg often had. But he's really, really sort of heavily armoured, like they did originally. I mean, I think at times they more like the armour than when they're trying to do sort of multiple drones at a time. But he does look like he's been somehow enhanced for combat, which I think is the point with this series. But you can see that he's right on a par with the Klingon in terms of size, if not a bit taller actually, depending on how they're posed. So I think what I'll do is I'll try and free him from his sort of baseboard, but you can see that they've done the sort of regeneration chamber graphics on the back behind his head there as well. So it'll probably be nice just to have a look at the packaging once he's actually completely off his base, just to see exactly what sort of the quality of the artwork was like, because I think this is where Art Asylum really sort of upped the game from Playmates. Playmates boxes were kind of, they're okay. I imagine they were probably quite striking on the shelves, but they weren't very exciting. I mean, same could be said for Diamond Select ones, but the Art Asylum ones always had, the packaging always had that little bit extra to my mind. So let's see what I can do about freeing him from his restraints.
A few moments later.
I think I've actually broken a sweat just getting him out of his box. Would you believe that they use these little sort of wire ties, as is often the way these days, of course. But I thought I was going to be able to get him out. Then I realised that his feet were attached by those ties, and they'd actually put a tie through this tiny, tiny little peg, sort of loop of tube on this foot. So if a kid had just kind of ripped him out like that, that would have been that tube broken for life, basically. So you'd need instant repairs if you didn't have a significant amount of patience in getting him out. Now, he is a really interesting, he's not as symmetrical as, well, I say no, I mean, a lot of Borgs aren't symmetrical actually, I suppose that's what makes them more alien in a way, because obviously he's got this massive prosthesis on his arm, but he has actually got an elbow joint, which the Klingon doesn't have. So you can actually flex this a bit up and down, because I guess given its length that makes sense, and it's also got a bit of rotation to it as well. So actually there's quite a bit of functionality there, more than the Klingon, although I don't think this claw opens from the feel of it. Oh no, it does actually, it's just stiff. There you go. So actually that's quite nice. So he's got a bit of sort of built-in playability. He doesn't have accessories as such, but he's got a bit of built-in playability by his nature. Now, I've no idea what species he's supposed to be. His head's a bit of a sort of mishmash of arguably sort of several different species, but I can't really tell. But his hands are sort of webbed almost, as if it's an aquatic species. It's kind of weird. But isn't it? All of the detailing on him is terrific. There's a lot of detail there to sort of soak in and have a look at. Incredibly brave of them to put this many sort of rubber pipes all around him, because he can actually twist. He's got a bit of torso twist, so you've got to be a little bit careful when you're doing that you don't actually damage one of the tubes. Although hopefully they've all got enough giving them to to allow for that range of movement. Even his head. I mean, even getting him out of the packet, I was being so careful not to dislodge any of the pipes. It's crazy. But I do love his head sculpt. His head sculpt is superb. It's really, really well detailed. I love the sort of the implants there and everything else on him. I think that's a really, really lovely piece of work there by Art Asylum. Brilliant sort of rendition of a Borg. It's interesting that they've made him quite silvery. The Borg in the series were always quite dark, but I guess that's just not, this is just a sort of an aesthetic choice. He reminds me a little bit of the sort of the future Borg that Voyager inadvertently created. I can't remember what they named him now. but he was sort of based off the Doctor's mobile emitter, so he was more advanced than the Borg of that particular century. But obviously there was only so much he could do at the end of the day. Bless him. So yeah, it's a really great figure, I think. I mean, yes, the articulation isn't there. He hasn't got any knees. He's only got one arm that hinges, even though his other arm looks like it hinges. I'm pretty sure that this does not actually constitute a hinge. It's just a sort of a bolt going through. So it gives the impression that it's going to be able to bend, but it doesn't. It's actually fixed. But I get the feeling that had they gone beyond these two kind of, perhaps more sort of prototype-y type ones, they might have ended up doing something different. I'd love to know what this thing was supposed to be up on his shoulder. It kind of looks like it could be a cannon, or maybe it's a sort of shield emitter or something. It's kind of, I don't really know what it's supposed to be. But then the Borg often had these sort of mysterious appendages attached to them when you were never quite sure what the crack was with them. But it's very Borg. It is very sort of Borg from the TV show as much as anything else, and possibly from the first film as well. No idea why he's got a big red self-destruct button on his arm. That's a bit weird, but okay. Don't know why that's there. But this is one of his only pieces of significant colouring as well, which is funny. But yeah, I think this is a terrific figure. I've no idea if it's the sort of thing I would have picked up at the time. Probably not. But if you wanted to sort of display pieces, these two would look great together on a shelf, because they have presence, because they're that much bigger than the average play figure. I mean, whilst I was doing a gag with the Gamorrean guards at the beginning of the video, obviously he's tiny compared to this Borg. He really is. There's just no comparison really. So yeah, whole different scale level. I don't know whether he'd stack well with sort of Mcfarlane sized figures these days. It's possible. But yeah, I just think it's a great Star Trek action figure sculpt. Maybe it's more of a model than an actual action figure, but nevertheless, it's impressive. So one last thing I wanted to show you actually before I close this one out. It's just it's still got a few of the pipes attached to it. I say pipes, not pipes, but packaging security measures. But the nice thing is, as I suspected, I was able to get him out of here without actually having to damage the bubble on the back, because it's not really a bubble. It's purely sort of holding him in place, which is nice. But like I say, whatever you do, if you ever lay your hands on one of these, do not whatever you do, yank it out the back, because as you can see, there's an absolute load of sort of stuff keeping it in there. You can see where the holes were there, and he was held in several different places. So it's not something you want to be doing lightly. It took me quite a while to completely free him up without doing the back any damage, or him any damage in the process. But that's the so now that he's not weighting it down, it won't stand up. Let me just pull this back for you. So that's the artwork without him in it. But again, that's a lovely piece of artwork, because that is as you would expect to see it in the series and the films. Really, again, I think they've brightened it a little bit just for display purposes. But I also quite like they've sort of kept the quite sort of grungy industrial grating underneath where he'd sort of stand on while regenerating. So I do like that. I do like that quite a lot as a little bit of sort of extra value for money. There's let's face it, there's no reason that they really that they had to do it like that. They just chose to, which I think is a nice touch. It shows creativity on their part, to want to do it like that, basically. So it's impressive. It's impressive. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. It's not often that I just sort of smile as soon as I open a package from eBay, but on this occasion I really genuinely did, because I just thought, yeah, this is exactly what I was hoping for from this one. It's exactly like the Klingon one, and yeah, just fun. Grand. And with that, I will leave it there. Cheers for now.